Live from the 607, it's the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking movies, TV, comics, and more. Join in the conversation on our social media with the hashtag ODPH, because here we go. Welcome back for another edition of the ODPH podcast, better known as the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. I'm your host, Ken M. Joining me in studio as always, he's the co-host. He is Padawanje.
Hello, hello, hello.
Folks, we have a lot to discuss in the land of movies, TV, comics, and more, so join in the conversation, will you? Head over to OchoDuroParlayHour.com. Find our social media links on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Interact with us, and always remember to use the hashtag ODPH in the conversation, because we have a lot to discuss this week. Mm-hmm. And let's kick it off with a happy birthday, perchance, and that is happy birthday to one Bruce Wayne.
And if we had a webcam live feed here, you'd see air quotes.
Yes, because today, in current comics time continuum, shall we say, post-crisis, pre-New 52, it's been established that this is Bruce Wayne's birthday, February 19th. And obviously, if you know the comics, he's been around longer. Obviously, May 27th, 1939, Bob Kane and Bill Finger decided to create the one and only Batman. And this is kind of just recognized as his birthday. So we figured for the opening segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast, we would kind of talk a little Batman news, because there is a lot going on with Batman.
Yeah.
Now, first and foremost, there was the pictures released from the upcoming Matt Reeves film, The Batman.
Yep.
So we finally see Robert Pattinson in his costume.
Well, we kind of see him.
We kind of see him, but we have enough that we can kind of make some judgment calls on it. So, Pad, you've seen the pictures as well as I. What is your thoughts on it?
I like the costume. I mean, this was one of the things that, wasn't really on my list of, I'm not sure how this is going to work. I'm a little skeptical. Obviously, anytime somebody gets cast as the new actor to play Batman, they're going to have a different iteration of the suit. It's going to be their own. It's going to be iconic, depending on your definition or your thoughts on some of those suits. George Clooney, cough. Yeah, bat nipples. That's all I'll say.
Oh, God.
But every time there's a new actor cast or even a new animated series cast, you kind of wonder, I wonder what the suit's going to look like. And no offense or disrespect to Robert Pattinson, but he's not exactly the bulkiest guy in the room. He's not exactly the buffest guy in the room. So I was kind of wondering, I'm like, all right, he's not Ben Affleck. Here, let me get in the gym for 30 days and just really bulk up. So I was kind of curious about it. I like the look. It reminds me very much of the suit that was in the Batman Arkham video games.
Yeah, I have to agree. I loved what I saw. I was not mad about that suit at all. I thought Pattinson looked the role, which, that's what you want essentially at the end of the day. And I know there's been so much controversy of, oh my gosh, you cast the guy from Twilight in the Batman. Yeah. Remember, folks, they also casted Heath Ledger as the Joker. And look how that worked out.
I'll say they casted Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man, which prior to that, he wasn't really a very welcome name.
Exactly. So have some faith in it. Matt Reeves' track record speaks for itself. I'm very, very excited about this film and seeing the first pictures. Definitely agree this is from the Arkham video game series. This is what the suit reminds me of.
Which in those video games, it's very much armor more than suit, I would say. Which leads me to believe one thing. He's going to be facing some shit.
Well, you have to think so, because we don't really know much about the script other than they have casted a plethora of villains.
Yeah. Well, and the speculation online, because a lot of people are going, wait, why are they showing this now? They just started filming. You hit the nail on the head, folks. They showed this because they just started filming, and a lot of people are speculating that they were getting ready to film outdoors. So rather than have people spoiled with what the suit looks like and something they might not want them to see, hey, let's get out ahead of it.
Yeah, and I think that's smart ideas from them.
Yeah.
That to get ahead of the story before it breaks and, your tabloid sites decide to start running crazy with it, they're like, no, here's a suit.
I mean, to be fair, it's not always tabloid sites or a tabloid photographer. The Millennium Falcon fully built in Star Wars Force Awakens was photographed by a guy simply flying just for fun over the British countryside. And he looked out over the one side of his plane. He goes, wait a minute, that's the Millennium Falcon. What the heck?
Yeah, exactly. So
sometimes it's just a freak happenstance.
Sometimes it happens, but in this case, they decided to get ahead of it. We appreciate it because this definitely created a new buzz for the movie, which I am happy to see that fans are turning into the movie and getting more excited about it. Because let's face it, when it first was announced, everybody was like, who? And, we even talked about it on the show for a great lengthy segment of what to expect. And I am on board with this. And after seeing the suit, I definitely am very interested to see where they go. I have long stated that my unofficial ODPH opinion is they are going to do The Long Halloween. One of the most iconic Batman stories of all time. Set around his first years as Batman. So
yeah, and that kind of floats with what's rumored online right now is that the movie will focus on him during his second year as Batman.
Which I believe it falls around the same time. So that would make a lot of sense, and especially with the amount of rogues they have casted thus far. And you assuming that this is going to be a trilogy film, which you would figure, okay, if you know the story, and I won't go into spoiler detail, I'm going to highly, highly, highly recommend you pick up a copy of Long Halloween if you're a Batman fan. If you don't have it already, which I very much question if you don't have it if you're a Batman fan. But I digress. Going into this, though, they're going to borrow a lot from that, I feel. And looking at the suit, it's more modernized as if he was Batman right now.
Yeah.
Which I don't know what I exactly think of that. That if it's Batman in the year 2020, finding his way, I don't necessarily know if that's going to gel with me too much. I think that this is going to be set a few years prior. Obviously, I'm not saying it's going to be set around the year of the Joker.
Right.
So we can already kind of temper the expectations that Joaquin Phoenix's Joker is going to be in this trilogy. I'm not saying it's not going to happen, but I really, really don't think it's going to happen.
Right. I mean, I don't really struggle with, the suit being super high tech and looking super armory and all that. I mean, I kind of wonder, given it, okay, it's the second year, like, okay, obviously he's going to use the Wayne funds to finance this thing and build this thing. I kind of wonder, all right, where's Wayne Enterprises at this point? Does it make sense, or is it kind of a reach? But in terms of being 2020 and the suit being all armory, I don't really struggle with that. I mean, you go and pick up a Tesla, I'm pretty sure you can play Tetris on the darn thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So
like with as modern as technology is, it doesn't really I don't really struggle with that. And you just look at the way with weapons are and guns and everything else, like, okay, running around in the Adam West suit wouldn't really work these days, from just a costume look to a practicality look.
Exactly. I think the Christian Bale run has really set the tone of what the bat suit should look like.
And the Christian Bale run made sense because, okay, he had the suit in the first one. Second one, he got stabbed or whatever it was, and then he goes to Lucius Fox and goes, I need something that'll stand up to knives.
Yeah.
Which makes sense.
Yeah, it made sense. I mean, to see how that trilogy established the growth of Batman and to see how it was more of a realistic take per se, that it really makes sense that they're going to borrow a lot from that trilogy into this one. I mean, there's so many great Batman films you can borrow from. 1989's Batman, the iconic Michael Keaton film, and the Christian Bale ones really stand out. I don't think they're going to go near the George Clooney one. In fact, I'm really, really hoping they stay the hell away from that.
I'm hoping they maybe reference it as a joke.
Yeah,
like we consider doing, putting nipples on it, but that just didn't make sense.
Yeah, something kind of funny like that. I'd be fully fine with, and even with the the Batfleck version. Yeah, I think that you can definitely borrow elements from each and really make something, because at the essential case, Batman's suit is a light suit of armor. If you really break it down to the comics version. Yeah. So to see them borrow that for this film, I'm really thinking is a good idea, and I'm fully on board with it. The one area though that's been catching a lot of online questioning is the bat symbol. Now, depending on what camera you see it from, because there's the red light version, and then there's been a few that have taken the red light out and made it plain color, I guess is the easy way to describe it.
Shout out to the people who took the red light footage and put it to the Daredevil theme.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's kind of run with it, and I understand why that they're making the comparisons, but I did not see it until they mentioned, and I'm like, yeah, but no. It's a cool thing.
I thought it was funny.
Oh, it's funny. It's funny. Well, you think about it, both those characters are very similar in different aspects.
Both were played by Ben Affleck at one point.
This is true. Frank Miller has written iconic stories. I know I'm throwing that word around a lot so far in this episode, but it's true. Born Again is the quintessential Daredevil story. If you haven't read it, it is essentially Daredevil Season 3. And you see The Dark Knight Returns is one of the most classic comic book stories. Not even Batman, but it's one of the most classic comic book stories ever written. And it really defines the character of Batman. For the time it is written in, it still stands up today. Highly recommend both. But to say that this is going to be a ripoff of Daredevil, I don't think so. But looking at the chess piece, though, This is where everybody is really trying to figure out what it is, because it does not look like a smoothed out piece of armor.
No.
It looks like there is something attached to it. Now, Pad, you were looking at the picture as we were recording.
Yep.
What is your thoughts on this?
I can't really tell. I mean, I know we're going to get to what the speculation is online. I agree with you that it's not a simple piece of metal that is painted white or gold or yellow or whatever that is supposed to be the bat symbol. There is clearly something in there, but I just, for the life of me, can't figure out what it is.
I am not sure either, and I know the running theory is the gun that killed his parents,
which is just absolutely nuts. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I just, in terms of like storytelling, if you were to come up to me and say, Batman's got a new suit and he's got two pieces or, you know, split pieces of the gun that killed his parents in the chest plate, I'd be wondering if he was okay.
Well, you know that he's one of the most fracturally emotional challenged people in all of comics. I mean, just to go through everything he's gone through, seeing your parents get killed is one thing, and then to go fight all the insanity characters you deal with on a daily basis in Gotham, I mean, that has to mentally wear you out. I mean, I think they kind of touched upon it lightly in Heroes in Crisis when that comic came out, but you know that he has definitely gone through some stuff, and definitely has some scarring there. So it's not out of the realm of thought. I know they covered this in Detective Comics 1000. Kevin Smith and Jim Lee had the short story about it, and there's a great article on IGN about this as well, too. So that being said, I'm looking at it, and I'm thinking, I don't think it's the guns. I don't think that they would go that route.
That also, I feel, would be really weird to have, like, in your second year of being the Batman. Like, I don't know why you would do that. It's just really weird. Like, okay, it's a constant reminder of why you're doing this. Okay, for who? You? Like, you know why you're doing this. Like, you visit. I'm assuming he's going to visit his parents' graves a few times during this movie.
Yeah, I would say that. My opinion is this is going to be some kind of extension of the utility belt.
That could be.
I don't know what, though. Like,
maybe it's a grappling hook or something.
That's the only thing I could think it was. It was going to be the grappling hook, and however they want to spin that in.
Because it looks like if you take the two pieces out and like stick them together, they're almost like mirrored identical in terms of like what's on there. So it looks like if you take this thing out and fold it together, it forms into something.
Yeah. So it could be a grappling hook. It could be the talons on the end of his gauntlets that he's had. Yeah. I mean, sometimes they do that, and it really kind of depends on where they want to go with it. I just think it's going to be an extension of his utility belt, whether it's a grappling hook, whether it's another bat something or other.
Could be like a last resort option.
Yeah, it could be, dare I say, a batarang. I mean, we haven't seen those in the movies in a long time, not since the Keaton era, but it could go either way. I mean, there's just so much. I mean, I don't remember Bale using one for some reason.
I want to say Clooney used them, although they were real gimmicky.
I really blocked that movie out.
Because I remember towards because I haven't seen the movie in years.
Yeah.
Towards the latter half of the movie when they're trying to stop Mr. Freeze, some of them were like heat, whatever. So like he has them, but he doesn't use them all that often.
Chill out.
Yeah.
Oh,
what killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age.
Oh my God, there's so much bad with that movie. But this one though definitely has my attention. Still excited to hear all the news going on with it. The casting keeps getting updated. That we're getting a little more news about it. Like I say, I'm sticking to my official guns that it is going to be the Long Halloween until proven otherwise. I think that that's the route they're going to go with the amount of rogues they have. And to see that it's going to go, I can only imagine this is going to be a trilogy. That's, I think, what I last heard is signed on for 3.
This is going to be the interesting thing. Like you said, there's a lot of rogues in this movie. And typically from comic book movies, when we've seen them tackle anything more than, 2, it's been a little messy.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see them pull this off, if they pull it off.
Oh, I fully think they will. I mean, Matt Reeves has done such an amazing job with the Planet of the Apes trilogy.
That's true.
So I have no doubt he can juggle the characters around and make something happen there. So I'm fully on board with this. And obviously, it's been kind of Batmania at the box office a little bit. Joker just won for best lead actor with Joaquin Phoenix's portrayal. Albeit you can't really tie it to the comics. It's loosely as best.
Yeah.
And to kind of tie it back into our excitement for this movie, this past Sunday, we were the featured Sponsored Sunday podcast pick on One Movie Punch. Shout out to Joseph and everybody in Team One Movie Punch. And we asked them to do a review for The Dark Knight, the iconic, man, I've thrown that word around a lot, but dealing with Batman, there's so many iconic moments, you can't steer away from it. The great portrayal of the Joker by Heath Ledger, Christopher Nolan's trilogy, which really gave a realistic approach to Batman, played by Christian Bale, and everything going on with it. And the podcast episode is great. I highly recommend you download it if you haven't downloaded it already. And I kind of was throwing something back that Joe mentioned on the show. And what he was mentioning about is if Nolan kept going with the trilogy. And he was saying if Nolan did a Riddler movie or a Poison Ivy movie. And I shot him a line back and I said, who would you cast for it? And Joseph was gracious enough to give us some audio and give us some content of what he would do for the movie. So we're going to hook that up right now. So take it away.
So the ODPH crew reached out to say thank you for the Sponsor Sunday episode over email, which is a totally boss move, by the way. Really, I should be thanking them for supporting One Movie Punch, your daily movie review podcast for currently playing newly streaming classic and cult movies, one movie per day every day. Without their support, I could never tell you that you can find us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at One Movie Punch or at our blog at onemoviepunch.com. And I definitely couldn't tell you about our Patreon page, where they signed up to force me to write a review for The Dark Knight. If you couldn't hear them, I did some air quotes around force me. So when they closed their email asking me what I thought about who should play a Nolan Riddler, I knew a way I could thank them. And I call this one Nolan Riddler. I don't know who Nolan would cast to play the Riddler, and I'm not sure casting matters, but I would like a mix of the Gotham show Riddler, complete with Gotham PD history as a tech, and the Arkham Trilogy Psychopath on the gaming consoles. Backstory would begin with the flashback to when Bruce's parents were killed. A bullied Nigma, as a tech for the GPD for the Wayne murders, discovers a clue examining Joe Hill that starts him on an obsessive quest which reveals the hit was ordered by the Court of Owls. When he goes to blow the whistle, they laugh him out of the office. When he threatens to go public, the court uses his awkward social behavior and crazy theories, and maybe a traumatic childhood incident to declare him insane and throw him into Arkham Asylum. During Batman Begins, Nigma's constantly trying to trade his knowledge on the Wayne murders and the Court of Owls for his release, always laughed off. But when he gets the news about Batman foiling Al Ghul's plan, he starts to put the pieces together and realizes that young Bruce grew up to become the Batman. During The Dark Knight, Nigma smuggles a note to the accountant at Wayne Enterprises, which leads him to learn about Bruce as Batman. And in the wake of The Dark Knight, Nigma meets Joker in Arkham, since we're dreaming, and they start to discuss the Batman. The whole time, Joker doesn't know who Batman is and frankly doesn't care, but Nigma does, and that makes him want to top both Bruce and Joker. And then to close out the prelude to open the film, Riddler manipulates the Joker to create a disturbance, so the audience takes Riddler seriously as the stronger opponent and uses it to escape Arkham Asylum and disappears. 4 years later, about halfway to The Dark Knight Rises, which always felt like a fourth movie to me, a multimedia riddle shows up on everyone's multimedia devices, using the same technology that Bruce thought he destroyed at the end of The Dark Knight. The riddle is targeting all the members of the Court of Owls, but also a particular member. When that person dies in an explosive way, a video that could only be taken during the incident is pushed again to everyone's devices, along with a cache of files that shows the target's nefarious deeds on the court, their ties to the major corporations and law firms and government officials, and explicitly Wayne Enterprises, along with another riddle for the next target. Buried within the data, of course, is a secret message for Bruce/Batman, which brings him out of retirement, along with the reluctant Lucius Fox, who warned him about the technology. Of course, Batman needs to operate covertly, much more so than the previous two films, because Gotham PD is after him for Dent's murder, but also because as the Riddler takes out more of the court and exposes their misdeeds, the public begins to side with the Riddler. He builds a loyal gang of followers for even more spectacular methods of taking out targets, but always precisely, with none of the damage or mess that Batman has left in the wake of his misadventures. With each billionaire he takes out in the Court of Owls, the economy begins to tumble even further, which only increases Riddler's popularity. Riddler's ultimate plan is to expose and eliminate the Court of Owls, reveal the truth about the Wayne murders, and reveal Batman's identity right before killing him, to show the public that billionaires have been waging proxy war in the streets while the people suffer. I'm not sure how all that comes together, but I do like that it would end with Bruce Wayne, identity intact, renouncing all his contracts with members of the surviving Court of Owls and their affiliates, and using that platform to announce his new partnership with Miranda Tate, to convert the weapon system into a fusion reactor for civilian energy. But since the social situation in Gotham is unresolved, he gets booed off stage as another billionaire, and that leads him into the life of a recluse, while Miranda Tate slowly takes over operations. I'd like Joker and Riddler talking about what happens next when the people get upset, with an Anne Hathaway silhouette cameo stealing something from one of the former targets who made an immunity deal, and maybe Bane inviting the remaining Riddler loyalists to help him with a new project in Gotham. It hooks right into the storyline of the fourth film. It also makes the relationship between Miranda and Bruce much more believable. And sure, bring back Joker and Riddler for The Dark Knight Rises and give it the real Arkham Asylum feel. Cast whoever you want in that story. I'm all in with anyone. I'm actually fine with changing Edward Nygma into any other demographic, because like Joker, I don't think it really matters who is the Riddler, just that he or she is smarter than Batman and willing to do whatever it takes to prove it. I would trust the Nolans to find the right fit. I've thought about this a little bit. Thanks again for your support, guys. Joseph out.
Pad, thoughts on that?
I mean, it's a good idea and it's a great story. Just I don't think Nolan would do it. Just you really think about it. First movie, Batman Begins, it's him versus Ra's al Ghul and getting his footing. Second movie, it's him, footing firmly established, taking on Joker and all that insanity. Third movie, kind of coming back from things, dealing with the fallout of the previous movie, kind of a continuation of Ra's al Ghul, sort of, while also taking on Bane. I just think there's a little, to involve, Bane and what is it, Talia and just all the other stuff. Just way too much going on for a Nolan Batman movie.
Sign me up. I am sold on that. The minute you said Court of Owls, I was just marking out. I'm like, that is my go-to villains. That's Snyder and Capullo's first run. I mean, you know how much of a fan I am of that if you've been listening to the podcast. I am all on board with that movie. In fact, I was guessing who the Riddler would be. So, okay. Pat, I'm going to ask you as soon as I'm done giving my take. I think it's got to be Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah.
I mean, he works well with Nolan.
Yeah. And
he could definitely bring out the insanity, but with the brilliance with it, too. I think he would absolutely crush it in that role.
Oh, yeah, Leo would be good. I mean, I really can't think of who would be good to play that role, just because Riddler hasn't been done since, Jim Carrey in the, what was that, the 90s? I can't really think of anyone that would be just, especially since I think the Riddler, I think of his portrayal from the animated series, and just that's what I hear, and that's what I expect, and that's what I picture. Because it hasn't been done, I can't wrap my head around, that person be good.
I am sold on the idea of Leo being. The more of it, I was listening to Joseph's take on that. I am just more sold on that idea for a movie. I wish we had it, but
he'd be good, but he'd be expensive.
He would be, but if you're going to go all out, he depends, because he does have that working relationship with Nolan.
Yeah,
you never know if he would take maybe a discount and do like a Robert Downey Jr. deal for it. It could happen, but either way, I know we never got to see that trilogy or that movie, but man, I'm sold on that.
What about a Ryan Reynolds?
Ryan Reynolds would be good too.
He could pull it off, just kind of the worky, quirky, Riddle, goofy portion if they were going that route.
Yeah, it all depends on your interpretation.
I would say if you go the animated series route, he's wacky, goofy, kind of like mischievous and playful. Whereas if you go the Arkham video game route, it's it's kind of playful, but at the same time, I want to rip your head off.
Yeah, it just depends on the interpretation you want to do, and that's why I said I think Leo could be able to swing both if you really want to jump into it. And I know that whenever we're going to see the Riddler appear in this next trilogy coming out for Matt Reeves, I know it's going to be a knockout of the park.
Yeah.
We don't know about any casting yet, but everything we've seen thus far and the legacy of the films going in with Batman, Pattinson is looking the role. He's definitely got my attention. He's got your attention. Definitely let us know what you think. Hit us up on that hashtag ODPH. And a special shout out and thank you again to Joseph from One Movie Punch. If you're not familiar with One Movie Punch, download it on any podcast provider you have. Is definitely worth the time if you're into films. Definitely worth it. Highest recommendation I can give. Shout out and thank you again to Joseph about that. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Sunny Hepburn.
And I'm Brandy Fleeks.
And this is Book of Lies, the podcast, where we discuss liars, cheats, and thieves,
scammers, and dirty, rotten scoundrels.
So tune in for new episodes every Tuesday to hear about another low-down dirty liar.
And learn how to spot them.
So that's Book of Lies podcast. Find us on your favorite podcast player or on Twitter at Book of Lies Pod, on Instagram at Book of Lies Podcast, and on Facebook at Book of Lies Podcast.
And if you want to send us an email, send us one at bookofliespodcast@gmail.com.
Okay?
Bye-bye!
Hey, this is Brian Wolf from Fair City Fire. You are listening to ODPH, the greatest podcast in Binghamton.
Woo!
A long night, but I'm not stopping till I
Coming back for segment number 2 on this edition of the ODPH podcast, and we have to talk our usual recap of the DC Arrowverse shows on the CW. Now, we are going to be talking spoilers if you haven't caught up to this past week's episodes, but we are going to be talking some Flash. We're going to be talking some Legends of Tomorrow. We're even going to talk a little Supergirl.
Okay.
So I'm going to throw that out there. So let's kick it off with the Flash in 3, 2, 1. Pad, what did you think? Really?
This episode did nothing for me. I'm sorry. Like, it was another, to use an anime term, it was filler. It was, if you're a Dragon Ball Z fan, it's the episode where Goku is on Snake Way and meets Princess Snake. Totally useless, never referenced ever again in the rest of the series. This episode is more filler. I understand they're trying to do stuff and trying to set up a villain and set up this and set up that. Could you really have done this in one episode? Because I feel like 2 is a stretch.
Yes and no. I think for longtime comic book fans, Ralph Dibny and meeting Sue for the first time, and if you know their relationship, this was kind of a cool episode. Albeit, though, a very, very different version of Sue than we know from the comics. Very different. Never the karate master / master thief, to my knowledge and recollection. Always has been more of a detective along the same lines as Ralph, but this was kind of cool just for a throwback to the comics and knowing that history. And for the rest of Team Flash, I do agree with you. It was kind of a snooze fest.
Well, and that's the thing. Sue first showed up, and he went, oh, "It's you," and then went to commercial. So here I am, not recognizing who it is. I thought it was Jesse. I thought Jesse'd somehow come, because you just got the episode last week where you see some version of Harrison Wells, whether it's Reverse Flash or Earth 2,
right,
or Earth 2 Harrison Wells. So I'm going, wait, is Jesse back? It looks like Jesse.
Yeah.
So, like, just the way they presented it for me didn't do anything for me.
Right, but that's, like I say, for me, knowing the history of Ralph Dibny and his relationship with his Sue, it was a very cool moment, and I was really interested to see how she was going to play out on screen. So to see that happen, and it was a nice little twist, I thought that was, like, the best part of the episode. Was it a home run? Not necessarily.
I would say it was nice to see Ralph finally, said that he so often builds himself as like a ladies' man and knowing what to do. I mean, there was the one episode a couple seasons ago where he gave, who was it? Was it Cisco?
Oh, the Book of Ralph.
The Book of Ralph on how to woo and date women, and it actually was like a terrible idea and like full of terrible ideas. So it was nice to see him finally like have that romantic relationship building and really have something going. That was nice, and it was nice to see their relationship kind of bud and grow. But the rest of the episode, didn't care.
No, it definitely didn't. I mean, that was the cool thing about Hartley Sawyer's portrayal of Ralph Dibny. He finally got his chance to really run as the leading person. And albeit it was a fun story, and if you know anything, I mean, the Elongated Man is not exactly somebody you fear in the DCU.
No.
But he's definitely known for his detective skills. He's definitely known for being a role player on the team. And to really see him kind of step up in his own, it was a very cool episode.
Well, it was nice to see him as something other than maybe the, sub actor or whatever you want to call it for being comedic humor.
Yeah, exactly.
Because when Cisco isn't on the screen, usually Ralph is the comedic humor.
Yeah, so since Cisco is gone from the show as of further notice, and Carlos Valadez has been announced that he's leaving the show. I don't know what they're going to plan on doing for anything for bringing that character back or what they're going to be doing for future plans. Ralph has some time to shine, and I think that's one thing if you've been listening to the podcast for a while. That's the one problem with the DC shows on the CW. You cast so many people as heroes that screen time is tough to really establish characters. So you need an episode like this to really balance out and really make you connect with a character. And I thought for Hartley's portrayal of Ralph, it definitely worked. You can definitely see how much growth he's done since he's been on the show. So I was okay with that. The whole story going on with Iris being trapped in the mirror, I don't care for.
No, I don't either.
It's boring to me. Like this one, she's trapped in there, so we kind of get a little more story of what's going on, and she meets Eva, who has been trapped in there since the particle accelerator accident, and it's really just kind of been going, okay, what's going on here? However you want to define that time pocket they're in. If you call it that, I'm not sure how, and how there's another imposter now of Iris escaping, and basically this organization known as Black Hole is secretly trying to take over Central City. So you do have some development going on here, but it was not enough to really hook me. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of just based in the episode, just kind of building up filler, like, okay, we're going to make our escape, and then...
Well, and that's the other thing, too. Eva's there, and I'm sitting there going, all right, wait, is this somebody we've already met before? Because, Christ, I can't remember. No. Like, I feel like so often with these shows, if you have a returning character, they're pulling from so far in the past, and somebody so obscure, you might not even remember them.
Well, it's just very interesting to see how they play off the particle accelerator and how many people that's affected.
Yeah.
And obviously with the dark matter, too. I mean, there's different elements that they tie into creating heroes and villains on the show that you have to really be watching from day one to really appreciate it. So, like you touched upon, Pat, I mean, you had to really think, okay, is this a new character? And obviously it is. So you don't know the backstory. You don't really know a lot. But you're also trying to figure out, okay, if this character has been in there since the particle accelerator, and depending on how timeline is now post-Crisis on Infinite Earths, it's kind of confusing to see how long she's mastered her powers. Because you do find out that she does have a weird type of power that she can, like, connect with the mirror dimension. Like, whatever you want to define it as. She has something where she can, like, connect through there.
It almost reminded me a little bit of, what was it, Hank Pym's wife?
Yeah.
In the microverse or whatever they call it in Ant-Man, where she's been in there for so long that she went in there with no powers, but hey, she was exposed to all the stuff hitting her that she eventually developed powers. I mean, that's what it kind of reminded me of.
It kind of did, but they didn't really explain what was going on. It was just they were trying to do an escape and it didn't work. So you really... I don't want, like, I have to agree with you. It was kind of like filler. It was just, I didn't really leave that show and go, okay, I really understand what's going on.
Again, much like last week, if you didn't see it, you can skip it.
Yeah, it's just kind of irrelevant. Like, not much really happened there. And honestly, with Barry, it wasn't a lot, too. It was just kind of...
He's sitting on the couch studying case files.
Yeah, like, that was pretty much all the extent he was. So, obviously, when Ralph and Sue's story took over... It definitely balanced out, and at least it made it somewhat worthwhile. Because to see that interaction, like I say, it definitely played off the romantic tension between them. I think Natalie Dreyfus played a good Sue Dearborn, and just what the direction is. Because as Ralph has been searching for how long since Sue's parents have hired her?
What do they say? 9 months?
Yeah,
something like that.
It's been 9 months, and you really find out, okay, what's going on after it appears there's an assassination attempt on her. And how Sue creates a story about how a gangster named John Loring is chasing her and basically uses Ralph to con him into helping her and steal a diamond that would take a metahuman to do. So you don't really know how long she's been watching him because it is revealed that she is a pretty smart detective in her own right.
Well, and I love the one scene where she locks Ralph in, what was it, the bank vault. And she comes walking out, and the guy and his henchmen are all standing there, and she's in the CCPD uniform, and she stands there, and she goes, all right, CCPD, you're all under arrest. And I'm thinking, all right, nobody in the room buys that for even a second.
No, nobody does. So it was kind of cool, though, how Ralph used his powers of, manipulating his body to look like Joe. And obviously... It was a cool playoff that he got to really demonstrate some of his powers, because you do forget, though, a lot of times, like, what he can do and what he can't. And even when he was trapped in the vault after Sue had led him on the wild goose chase to track down the diamond, and it was going to get her freedom, and then she wound up doing the double cross. He actually remembers, okay, he's thinking back and uses detective skills to escape, and subsequently wind up saving her until she disappears on him, and then we see Ultraviolet return. Which I actually forgot about that character for a while.
So did I.
Yeah. So obviously it wasn't Dr. Light, because I was thinking at first it was Dr. Light again, but obviously it wasn't. So it took a little while to remember. And obviously they have so many people jumping around that it does throw it off for a little bit. But either way, you did see, okay, Ralph has established himself. Then there's going to be more to this story going on because the diamond has the black hole icon on it.
Like it's covered in it.
Right. So I'm not sure where this story is going to go, because now suddenly the secret organization, and honestly, when I see that icon, I think Spiral from the Grayson series. So I don't know if they're going to try like flipping that and tying that into it. I don't know. There's so many questions involved in this episode, and there wasn't a lot of answers. And it wasn't like they're leaving me hanging about them. It was just kind of more like, all right, well, I'm here and I'm watching. I don't really get what's going on. But they did give hope for next week.
Yeah, they did.
And who is coming back?
Grodd.
Yes. So we're finally getting one of the classic Flash rogues, which I can't wait to see. Every time they've done Grodd, it has been phenomenal. And now since Grodd is part of the timeline, That is always key. Because when he's not, and it's obviously the difference that they've gone through the years with him, he's now on this earth. Everything's set up to really succeed and really show where his powers are. And I can't wait to see it because I think that so far since they come back from Crisis, it's been kind of a whimper on Flash.
Yeah.
It really hasn't stuck out. I mean, I know they had the new Dr. Light show up and where they were going with that and just really kind of balancing out. Didn't really do anything. Just honestly, it was kind of like, it's here. So obviously next week I'm a little more hyped up about Legends. Flipping the page though. Legends was okay.
Yeah, no, Legends was enjoyable.
Legends is Legends. I mean, is American Doctor Who the story of where they were going this episode with Marie Antoinette and running from France.
Well, and that's the thing I love with Legends, especially since they have the recurrences, I think is what they're called. I enjoy these because it's always, okay, what point in history are we going to and what is absolutely ass backwards wrong? In the instant they said, oh, we're going to France in 1793 or whatever it was, I'm like, okay, so middle of the roundabouts the French Revolution, people should be getting their heads lopped off, and all of a sudden they're having a raging kegger. And I'm like, this doesn't sound right.
No, it definitely doesn't. And this is where you really saw some of the other cast step up. And I mean, Jess McLean, who plays Ava, was given the captain's role since Sarah Lance, played by Katie Lotz, was not on the episode. Really on her own mission. So I'm not sure where that's going to kind of play out in the future.
Yeah.
And so you saw the interaction with the team, and I know they're focusing a lot of attention on Zari again.
Yeah.
Tala Ash. I'm not sure where they're going to go with that, because the one thing is, since the timeline is reset, she is slowly getting back her memories and what she can do and what she can't. And to see how that team is kind of building around it, and they've been focusing a lot of time on her, it kind of gave me, in a weird sense, the whole first season Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and how much we're focusing on Quake.
Yeah.
Kind of vibe. But it's a little different, because they're spending so much time on her character that it's got to be a big reveal when it happens. And obviously you see what goes on with her and how she's living the quote-unquote Kardashian life and how she gets knocked down a few pegs and definitely dips in a little bit with the time travel rules, and how her and Ava have now formed this friendship, which I think is very cool to see. That I think that those two characters could definitely play off each other a little bit more. And to see Ava now officially on the team, that not so much she's given the role of Sarah's girlfriend, but she's kind of standing up on her own and running the team, I think is a really good idea, and it really gives her a chance to really spread out. And this episode, I thought she did a really good job with it, especially dealing with run through France and then dealing with the only way you can describe it is it's Legends, the Legends storyline. And the backstory line, though, going on with John Constantine.
Oh, boy.
Now, that is going to get very, very messy as it goes, because obviously he's going demon hunting, and
anytime he's dealing with hell, it's never a good thing.
It never is. And I do love how they left the cliffhanger ending, where basically Ezra has manipulated his soul to be killed early. His lung cancer was going to get him, has now been sped up, and they left him basically where he dies on the end of the episode.
Yeah.
Now, where this goes next week is anybody's guess. I don't think we've seen the last of Matt Ryan as John Constantine.
No.
By a long shot.
No.
But to see where they're building it for the overall story, I'm really kind of confused, because Constantine is doing his own mission, so he has not really been connecting with the team. And you see the rest of the team is just doing normal Legend stuff. Now, I don't exactly know how you want to play that out, but I'm kind of sitting there going, eventually this is going to come back together. I just don't know how they're going to pull this off.
Yeah.
And it's really, I don't want to say confusing, but it doesn't have the sense of like, okay, there's really like a lot of flow to it. And to see where they're going to wind up going, because I mean, if Astra's supposed to be the major villain this season and she's unleashing all these evil souls from hell and they're running crazy through the timeline, it has to tie back somehow to the team.
I think it's just a case of, for once they're not really referencing or tying it into a previous comic or a previous story that have been in the comics, and they're just kind of using it and writing their own. So it's one of those situations where you can't really see the end. You don't know no pun intended, you don't know the end game.
No, you don't, but it's also one that it's been a little confusing getting on board with.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the only thing since Crisis came back. I think these two shows they've been okay. They haven't been home runs, though, by any stretch of the imagination. So I want to see him kind of pick up on track. I know when Grodd comes back for Flash, it's going to be a definite upgrade. And where Legends goes, it's Legends. So it's going to be more of the same as they tie into the season. But especially if they want to come back after the following season that they're already committed for, I think they really got to kind of find a little more continuum.
Continuity.
Thank you. I'm butchering it because I'm getting too wound up talking about it. But they need to find something more because, like I say, it's just real, wash, rinse, repeat. And I don't know, like I'm not even vibing off it. And it also kind of gets the sense they're forcing characters into different roles. It just doesn't gel and just doesn't make sense. Like the one that was the former Vixen character. Now suddenly she has a connection to Constantine's past, like out of nowhere. I don't know. Like it's not gelling as well as it should. So they still have time to right the ship though, because they have a few more episodes to go till they're done for the year. So I mean, another month and a half worth.
Something like that, yeah.
A month or two. So they definitely have time to go for it. But flipping to close out though the DCU recap. They have been very strong on Supergirl. And they have definitely brought back Winn, a.k.a. Future Toyman, a.k.a. What they've been doing with him has been just awesome. Yeah. To see Winn come back and how they've established that he's been in time in the future. Obviously, what's been going on with Brainiac 5 has definitely been a really, really wild trip this season. And how, Jesse Rath has been playing him. And you're seeing the different versions of Brainiac and how he has to now work with John Cryer's Lex Luthor. Right. And how Lex is playing the long game because he wants to go after Leviathan. And how they're still bringing that up. I'm very intrigued at this and how they're playing this off. But with Jeremy Jordan back as Winn Scott and how he kind of interjects that life into the role, I think has really helped the past couple episodes. And obviously dealing with Toyman and how he escaped the first time and is now in the DEO's computers and everything that's going on there. Kind of a little crazy episode, but it definitely played into Winn's strengths and definitely switch up the stat quo because by the time this episode was done, Alex resigns from the DEO.
Oh, wow.
Brainiac is put in as the head of the DEO, which only plays right into the fact of Lex getting information on Leviathan. So that's a little crazy because Alex is still going to be part of it, but steps down as the director. So Brainiac is definitely thrown a wrench into everybody's plans this year. And I do like seeing the difference in the character because originally when Brainiac was in this series was played as the Cisco, the quirky tech brain. Right. So now to see him being a little more colder, a little more like the comic version, I think really only helps. And to see how this is going to interact the rest of the season, I definitely am more interested in it than not. But how they end the episode is we get the introduction of a very, very classic Superman villain. Mr. Mxyzptlk, played by Thomas Lennon.
$10 if you can say that 10 times fast.
Not even going to try.
All right.
I got through it once. That's good enough for me. Either way, I love how next week's CW shows are tying back to the comics. And to really see what we get here, I'm super, super amped up to see. But let us know what you think. Hit us up on that hashtag ODPH. What is your thoughts about this past week's CW shows? Are you really in love with the direction of Flash and Legends and Supergirl? Are you saying, a Crisis was great, now we're on the downhill slide? And are you really amped up for next week's shows as we are? Because we get Grodd and we get Mxyzptlk. Sold. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Yo, what up? It's your boy, Kobe Mack, host of the Kobe Told Me podcast. It's my whenever I want to deep dive with the Mac himself, where I get to amplify my movie reviews for your listening pleasure. This is my 30 minutes or less solo pod, keeping it real with reviews, sometimes movie news, and an always dope box office breakdown. I'm the best subjectively objective film critic in the game, and when they ask you where you heard it from, you tell them Kobe told me. Peace.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is George Gatton, and you are listening to the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour Entertainment Edition.
Coming back for the third segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast, and there is a show coming back to Disney Plus this week.
Yes.
Dare I say it's debuting on Disney Plus, but it's returning.
Mm-hmm.
And Pad has had this circled on the calendar for a long time.
For quite a while.
So, Pad, why don't you break it down for us?
Yes, of course. This Friday, February 21st, 3 in the morning Eastern, which means I'll be just waiting till I get up. You know, I got work that same day. I'm not getting up 3 hours before my alarm.
Not calling in for that?
No. Going to be watching it before I go into work. Of course, it's Star Wars, The Clone Wars, Season 7, the final season, although I kind of hope not. I kind of hope they come back at some future date because this show is so good. Of course, the show first came out way back when in 2008 and was, you know, kind of that. It came at an interesting time in Star Wars where the last film had come out in Revenge of the Sith. Disney hadn't bought the franchise yet. No, we didn't think anything else was coming, you know, so this was kind of it for the Star Wars. So definitely recommend watching the show. It's all episodes are currently available on Disney Plus. Definitely worth the watch. I highly recommend watching every episode. Watch order. I know there's an article on StarWars.com about the chronological order of episodes because some of the orders aren't in order story-wise, but just watch them in the order they were released in. It's a lot easier that way. So I'm going to go through some of at least one arc from each season and talk about it a little bit and say why I think it's great because that's the way this story worked. Show worked because it wasn't done in maybe like an X-Men the animated series way. It wasn't done in a Batman the animated series way where there were some loose connections, but it really didn't tie in overall. No, this stuff, it all tied together. It all meant something. You heard stuff referenced in later episodes, if not the following episode, and they had these arcs. So season 1, probably the arc that stands out to me the most is the Ryloth arc. Now, this is episodes 19 through 21 in season 1 of the Clone Wars, where essentially what is going on is you have the planet Ryloth, which is the home of the Twi'leks. Think the females with the long head tails going on, that Twi'leks. Their home is currently being invaded by the Separatist forces and blockaded, and their people are starving. So you have the Jedi in Mace Windu, Anakin Skywalker with his apprentice, and Obi-Wan Kenobi. So really 3 of the biggest Jedi they've got.
Yeah, you can't get any bigger than that.
All storming the planet to try and take it over and free the people of Ryloth. You know, the first episode is with Anakin and Ahsoka, and you know, deals with Ahsoka kind of learning how, all right, you know, we're going to kind of take the training wheels off you a little bit. You're going to be given command of your own fleet of starships, you know, your own troops to fight in battle. Second episode in this arc is dealing with Obi-Wan and his forces making it to the ground and trying to free the people, you know, which is really great. And then the third episode is with Mace Windu trying to track down one of the members from the Separatist Council that you actually see in the films, Wat Tambor. If you remember episode 2, Attack of the Clones, he's the gentleman who, when all the Separatists are sitting together, he sits there talking and then his voice goes all weird and he adjusts the little dial on his chest. That's him. Okay. So that's definitely an arc to check out in season 1, although I will give a special honorary mention to I forget what episodes it is, but it deals with, I want to say the first episode is Defenders of Peace or something like that. The opening of that, I want to say it's episode 6. The opening of that is probably the best opening to any of the Star Wars Clone Wars they've done. Moving on to season 2, I'm going to say one of the best arcs from that season, because there's 2 I want to mention in that season, is the Return to Geonosis. That arc is episodes 4 through 8. In that second season, which I remember watching this and going, "Oh God, they're going back to Geonosis." And there's even one part in the second episode where Commander Cody, who of course you see show up in Revenge of the Sith, is talking with Anakin's clone captain Rex, and Cody asks Rex, "Were you at Geonosis the first time?" And he goes, "Or no." It's Obi-Wan asks Cody if he was there the first time, and he goes, "No, sir, I wasn't there." He goes, "I heard it was fun." He goes, "Well, if you call being tied to a pole while a monster tries to attack and kill you fun." Yeah, so if the first episode is titled Senate Spy, essentially what it is the Jedi find out that there is a plot going on, and they're not quite sure what's going on, so they send Padme to investigate it. Second episode is kind of the fruits of that spying done, and they find out that there's a droid foundry on Geonosis, and, well, we lost it once. We got to go back and take the damn planet again. And Obi-Wan at one point says, let's hope we never have to do this again. Let's not have to take it a third time.
Probably a smart call there.
Yeah. Third episode is titled Weapons Factory, and it's a great, look at Ahsoka and one of the other Padawans that you see in the show, Barriss Offee. They get sent into the droid foundry to try and blow it up. Fourth episode is Legacy of Terror, and this one is really interesting because you get mind control involved, and it's not done through a conventional wave the Jedi hand in front of you. It's a little weird, it's a little freaky, but it's a great episode. And then the final episode is Brain Invaders, which is kind of like, oh, you thought you dealt with it, nah, joke's on you.
Interesting.
Yeah, so after that, another great arc in season 2 is the Mandalore arc, because this kind of turned Star Wars fans on their head a little bit, because for a long time, people always had this thought of what Mandalore was and what a Mandalorian was, and it's this armor guy, it's the Boba Fett type that leaps into battle, always bounty hunting, always contract hunting, and this kind of turned things on their head. It introduced a Mandalore that isn't really a warfaring people, isn't really a fighting people. Well, we're more pacifists now. We're not so much into fighting.
I don't buy that.
Yeah, well, spoiler alert, it doesn't last long. First episode, this is episodes 12 through 14 in season 2. First episode is the Mandalore plot, which is essentially, word has gotten to the Republic that Mandalore, which at this point is neutral in the war. Yes, there are some planets in this galaxy that are neutral. They're not on one side or the other. There's about 1,000 of them, if I remember the arc right. It deals with Obi-Wan Kenobi getting sent to Mandalore and really trying to find out, all right, are these rumors true? Is Mandalore really looking at joining the Separatists? Then you get the second episode, Voyage of Temptation, which features Anakin and Obi-Wan bringing the head of Mandalore back to the Senate to kind of try and explain, all right, listen, hey, here's what's really going on. We're not doing this. You also find out something a little interesting about Obi-Wan's past. He's not the good, upstanding, rule-following Jedi that you might believe him to be. I'll leave it at that. It's a great reveal if you haven't seen the show before.
Do you think we tie that into the Obi-Wan series coming up?
Let's put it to this way. If Rey had ended up being a Kenobi, that episode would have explained it.
Okay. Fair enough.
If it would have been a weird workaround, but if Rey had ended up being a Kenobi, it would have worked in this way.
Okay.
The final episode is titled Duchess of Mandalore. Essentially, the head of Mandalore gets framed for something, and it's her running around trying to prove her innocence. It's a great series, and it really introduces the Mandalorians and Mandalore, which really become a focal point as the series goes on. Moving on to season 3, you've heard me talk about it before. I cannot talk about this arc enough.
Yeah, this is your series.
The Mortis arc.
Or the arc, rather.
Yeah, so this is episodes 15 through 17 of season 3. This is the quintessential, best storytelling they've done in Star Wars this century.
Okay.
It is just absolutely insane, where you have Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Anakin's Padawan land on this planet. There's a father who has a son and a daughter. The son is very in tune with the dark side. The daughter is very in tune with the light side. If I haven't sold you on this arc in the past, let me just sell you on this point. Anakin finds out the future.
Oh.
He finds out what he did or will do.
Okay.
Obviously, things change and he doesn't remember it. But it's some of the best storytelling they've done, because the thing with the Star Wars: The Clone Wars, when it really gets in depth with stories and arcs about the Force and kind of the inner workings, they're some of the best. Mm-hmm. And this is kind of that benchmark. It's really great. I'll also honorable mention to season 3, I forget what it's called, but it's the arc before this where they introduce Savage Opress. I realize if you look the name up, it looks like Savage Opress. George Lucas says it's Savage Opress. Okay.
All right, go with Lucas.
Yeah, go with Lucas.
He might know a thing or two.
This is also the arc where they first tease Darth Maul is alive.
Oh, okay.
And I remember watching that on TV when it aired, and because they show a crystal ball and they're talking, and you see a clear, distinct face of Darth Maul, and I said, quote, "Holy shit, he's alive," because he kind of got cut in half.
Well, he did get cut in half. I mean, that was one big faux pas of the Phantom Menace, in my opinion, that you had one of the best looking visually villains, and you wipe him out that first. He was one and done.
Yeah.
So for all the hype that was around him and the double lightsaber, to do him like that, it was really a bad look. And now to see him come back, and that's one cool thing about this show, that you can kind of play around with areas.
Moving to season 4. Season 4 for me probably has to be the weakest. I enjoy it, but just, the first arc, it deals with Mon Calamari, and you get to see a younger, it's a trap, Admiral Akbar. You get to see a younger Akbar. It just does nothing for me. I mean, the big villain in that arc is a shark creature with, who goes around biting people. It doesn't really do anything for me, but I will say one of the great arcs in that season is the Umbara arc, which is episodes 7 through 10. This basically deals with, they're on a planet that's really dark, like almost basically no daylight. Anakin gets called back to Coruscant at the request of the Chancellor, and he leaves his clones in the command of one General Krell, who looks like the gentleman who runs the diner in episode 2, Attack of the Clones, that Obi-Wan goes and meets. Same creature. 4 arms, wields 4 double-bladed lightsabers, if I remember right. It's really cool. But it deals with him having a little, he's got a high success rate. He really gets things done, but his mortality rate in terms of his forces is like the highest in the entire army.
Okay.
So it's kind of like they're not okay with doing this. He has some really horrible plans, and it's them kind of coming to grips with, this guy doesn't have our best interests at heart. We got to fix this. It's some of the darkest storytelling for a children's television show.
Yeah, there's one thing you got to remember, too, is this is not mature, I don't want to say mature readers, but the MA rating is not on this.
No.
But they definitely go into some places that you definitely would not expect.
Yeah. Moving to another great arc in season 4, probably, I would say, the best one. You have the Obi-Wan undercover arc. Basically what happens, the Jedi find out that there is a plot to assassinate Chancellor Palpatine. Hindsight being 2020, might have been the better idea to let him go, all things considered.
Yeah.
You think about it. But so obviously the Jedi don't know what's going on. They come up with a plot to let Obi-Wan go undercover and discover what is going on and try and foil it. Obi-Wan gets, quote-unquote, murdered. And he gets quote-unquote assassinated, and it pisses Anakin off to no end. There's a funeral scene where they fake bury Obi-Wan in the Jedi Temple, and Ahsoka leans over to one of the other Jedi and says, I'm really worried for Anakin. He hasn't said a word since Obi-Wan was killed. And just the seething look on his face, and you can hear, and they actually use Vader's theme in the episode, and you're just like, okay,
that's a cool touch.
Okay, we know where his mood's at. This is episodes 15 through 18 in season 4. First episode, Deception, of course, name of the title. It sets up how the Deception, friends and enemies. It deals with Obi-Wan still undercover, really trying to come to grips with what they're doing in the third episode of this arc is titled The Box. Basically, they take all of the big bounty hunters minus Boba Fett, because, well, he's a kid, into this proverbial box and really test them. Like, all right, we're going to test your mettle. Here's some of what you're going to run up into with this job. Let's see who survives through this. If you survive through this, you're good enough to go on the job. The final episode is Crisis on Naboo, where, hey, go time. We got to stop this plot. We got to do what we got to do. So all in all, season 4, not the best, but it's still fun. Moving on to season 5, this great arc is titled The Shadow Collective. It's episodes 1 and then 14 through 16. This is dealing with at this point, Darth Maul has come back. He's working with his brother. They're trying to build, a syndicate, a crime syndicate in the underworld, kind of like what he alluded to in Solo, his appearance in Solo, a Star Wars story.
Okay.
He's uniting all the crime families and what have you. Great episode, and it features single-handedly the best lightsaber duel in all of Star Wars between him, Savage Opress, his brother, and Sidious.
That is high praise right there.
Yeah, and it's absolutely nuts. The final episode of the arc, The Lawless, is one of the best they've ever done. Especially there's an end shot that is just absolutely nuts and absolutely great. Another great arc in that season is the final arc in the season called The Rogue Jedi. This is episodes 17 through 20. Basically what happens is there is a bombing at the Jedi Temple. Anakin and Ahsoka go to try and figure out what the heck is going on, because the Jedi Council isn't sure who to trust in this, because it came from somebody on the inside. They're not sure. You two were off planet. We know you had nothing to do with this. Investigate this. So it deals with them investigating it, and then once they catch the person who did this, Anakin's Padawan is framed for a murder, and she then goes on the run to try and prove her innocence. And the final episode, The Wrong Jedi, is absolutely nuts. It's a great episode. It also features a scene that was highly anticipated and very talked about for a couple of years when the show was going on, because the story came out from the show producer Dave Filoni, that for the recording session, because the awesome thing they did with this show is they had all of the actors in the same room, voice recording together,
and that's huge too.
Yeah, you don't really see that with television shows a lot, even cartoons a lot, where you'll have somebody come in, do their lines, and then leave. No, this show they had them all in the same room together so they could play off of each other. The final scene in this episode, and what was then the series finale, they kicked out everyone in the room except for the 2 actors who were in the final scene. So that's
interesting. That's a really refreshing take on it too.
Yeah,
you really kind of get the best out of each one there.
Mm-hmm. So that's a great arc in season 5. Season 6, great arc I would say is the first 4 episodes in season 6, titled "The Clone Protocol 66." You want to find out what happens when Order 66 almost gets exposed before it's time for that thing to go? This is your arc. It's a great arc involving one of the series' ongoing characters that it gets introduced way back in a then forgettable episode in season 1, but becomes one of the fan favorite characters as the series goes on, where they find out something, one of the clones in his battalion dies. He's like, something doesn't seem right. This isn't right. Why would he just snap and do this? They investigate it, and they come about yay close to figuring out and exposing Order 66.
And if that happened, it changes everything. That's a game changer right there.
Yeah, so that's a great episode, and it's a great, what if? The last arc I want to mention that's a really good one is also from season 6. It is episodes 10 through 13. It is the Yoda arc. Basically, Yoda starts hearing voices, and at 900 plus years old, that's not exactly a good thing.
That's not good.
No, so it's one of those episodes that really delves into the Force. Yoda finds out that there's something coming, that there's something as bad is going to happen to the Jedi, but he can't figure out what it is. It also brings Darth Bane into canon, which he was previously legacy only, voiced by Mark Hamill. So another great episode, but those are some of the arcs I think are really good. Some of the best standout ones. Obviously they're all good. I highly recommend all of them. Go watch the show. It's amazing. It's 6 seasons right now. 7th season is premiering this Friday, February 21st, with the first batch of episodes being titled The Bad Batch Arc. Not really knowing what's going on with this. I know some of parts of the episode were previously released as like storyboard, like the voice acting was done, because when the show ended on Cartoon Network way back with season 5, they were working so far ahead that they had most of season 6 done and were working on part of season 7, and they were planning out like 8 and 9. They were working so far ahead in the future. So like when the show ended in season 6, when it got put out on Netflix, they said, well, we had this other arc that was going to be on season 7, but we just never got done with it. And they put it out on StarWars.com as like a 22-minute video or something like that. So that's this is the first batch of arcs, a batch of episodes. Not really sure what the overall plot of this is. There is a clip online if you go to, I believe it's the Star Wars YouTube channel, where it's essentially you've got 4 clone troopers. Something's going on. They got to call this crew in. They got a real high, success rate, 100%, which in the army, clone army, real hard to do, and it's really not how they get it done. It's kind of their methods. They're a little interesting. So definitely something to check out.
Well, it's going to be something interesting to see. And like you said, the show comes back this Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Now they are committed through this season.
Yep.
And then after that is anybody's guess?
After that, this is anybody's guess. Dave Filoni has said that this is the final episode, that they got to kind of put a bookend to it. I hope it's not. I hope at some point they come back and they revisit and they do some more episodes. Even if it's in a book form, because I know there was a book that came out a couple of years ago that was, a collection of 3 scripts that would have been 3 or 4 scripts that would have been episodes on the show that they then turned into a book. I think if they even go that route, it's great. I think that there's so much more you can flesh out and look at with the Clone Wars.
Do you think there's any character that they haven't touched upon that you would like to see added in there?
That's hard to say, just because a lot of characters got featured, and especially ones that might have had one scene in the background of one of the prequel films. They'd show up in an episode. I'd like to see more Hondo Onaka.
Okay.
Voiced by Jim Cummings, Winnie the Pooh, among many other voices. One of the best characters they've ever introduced.
No, it definitely sounds interesting, and that comes out this Friday.
Yep.
Highest recommendation you can give?
Absolutely. It's a great show.
So we're going to have to definitely get some reviews coming from you for that, because we definitely want to keep track of the show, and if it does the Star Wars universe justice, which, so far so good from what you've said.
Yeah.
I've caught some episodes. I'm not fully caught up on a lot. I've been trying to juggle some shows around, but I go by your judgment on this. You're the Star Wars aficionado of the ODPH, so if you say watch it, we're watching it. But definitely hit us up on that hashtag ODPH. Are you watching the Clone Wars on Disney Plus this week? If you are, what's your expectations? What do you want to see? What don't you want to see? And do you think they should continue going on? And how many seasons? Let's throw that one out there. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
This is Rich, the host of the Three Fat Nerds podcast and co-host of the Horror Zone 607 podcast, and you are listening to our hashtag 607 podcast brothers, the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. Now kick it back over to Ken Moneybags and the crew.
Coming back for the final segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast. Pad kicks off with those one-shots.
Got a couple of things to talk about, continuing the Star Wars theme from last segment. It got announced today when you can buy the digital and physical versions of Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. Digitally, it will be available on March 17th, and then physically, it will be available on March 31st. Nothing said about when it'll be coming to Disney Plus. Stay glued into the Disney Plus social media accounts, because Lord knows they'll be promoting that.
Yeah.
So that's definitely something to check out if you are a fan of the Star Wars saga, and if you're a big completionist and you really like having everything. Best Buy is offering a 27-disc Skywalker Saga box set. 27 discs. It retails at a small, measly price of $250. All 27 discs will be in both. You will have both 4K and Blu-ray. It will feature a hardcover book and a letter from Mark Hamill. As much as I love Star Wars, I am not shoveling out $250 for this.
Yeah.
I already own the previous movies. I don't need to own them. Some instances I own them in more than one format. Not by choice. That's just how it goes. I will not be purchasing this because I cannot stomach dropping $250, even for something I love as much as Star Wars.
It is a costly penny.
Mm-hmm.
So depending on how much you want to spend with your money, and then, hey, you're entitled to do with it whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting a lot for what you're getting.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're getting next to nothing.
Yeah.
That's a lot. The letter from Mark Hamill is
it's cool.
It's cool.
Yeah.
I'm not hating on that. But, it just depends on what you want to do with it. That's a little steep for me.
Yeah.
Like, I'll probably get the Blu-ray when it comes out.
Yeah, I'll get the Steelbook from Best Buy because the Steelbooks are always awesome.
Yeah, so...
Yeah. Switching gears, also talking some movie news. Tom Holland, who was on the blue carpet, it wasn't a red carpet, it was a blue carpet, premiere for the new Disney Pixar film Onward, was asked about Uncharted, the Uncharted film, which has been in the works off and on for, probably about a decade now. It's finally happening. He said when speaking to IGN last night that it's filming in about, quote, 4 weeks. He said, quote, "If I'm honest, one of my favorite video games ever is the fourth Uncharted game. It's unbelievable. And lots of the inspiration from the film has come from that game in particular. It was interesting when I last sat down with Tom Rothman, who is the Sony Pictures chairman, and we were talking about video games, and I was like, oh, I've just finished Uncharted. And he was like, well, why don't you play Nathan Drake? I remember being like, I would do anything to play Nathan Drake. Please, that would be amazing. So yeah, we start shooting in 4 weeks. Mark Wahlberg is going to be amazing as Sully. The stunt department that we have out there in Berlin have done an amazing job already prepping the stunts, and it's going to be an exciting one, close quote. So for those of you who aren't familiar, Uncharted is a series of video games from the folks over at Naughty Dog's Studios. There are 5 games, I want to say. Well, technically 6. I almost forgot the PlayStation Portable one. That are set around the world. Think Indiana Jones, but kind of like a younger version of Indiana Jones.
Okay.
It's draws in kind of the same inspirations, simple plot, looking for something, turns out to be a little more mystical than you might have expected. Definitely a lot of fun. Definitely interested to see where they go with this, because obviously with Tom Holland being cast in the title role of Nathan Drake, they're going younger. And to say they're borrowing from Uncharted 4, which is a great game, and it's going to be very interesting to see what they do. I'm not sold on Mark Wahlberg as Sully. YouTube, if you haven't played the Uncharted games and don't have a PlayStation, just YouTube Uncharted Sully and find some clips of him. I realize that's older and later in the Uncharted timeline. I just don't buy Mark Wahlberg as Sully. That's my one gripe with this. But if the trailer comes out and I like what I see, I'll change my opinion.
Yeah, I gotta see a trailer first before I make an opinion. I'm not super familiar with the franchise. I know it's a video game, but Tom Holland definitely has been putting in some work, so
yeah.
Have to check it out. Obviously, he saved the MCU with Spider-Man, so
it's true.
What can you gotta get a little support there.
Mm-hmm.
So for my one shots, let's talk some Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Now the AMC long-running zombie
10 years.
I know. Can you believe it's gone that far? The long-running zombie soap opera returns this Sunday as we're recording.
Sunday.
February 23rd on AMC. So, Pad, let me ask you this. Are you excited?
A little bit. Not as excited as I have been in previous years. I know, in my Facebook memories, it has been coming up and how amped up and how excited I was in seasons past. I'm excited to have it come back, but I'm not like over the moon posting in all caps that I'm excited. I'm happy to have it back. It gives me something fun to watch on Sunday that isn't necessarily superhero themed. It's a kind of a Sunday staple for me at this point. I've been watching it for 9 years. I didn't watch season 1, admittedly, when it aired, but I'm excited to have it come back.
I'm interested. I'm not as super amped up as I used to be for The Dead.
No, same.
And I know they've done some changes. I mean, we haven't heard anything about the Andrew Lincoln movie franchise, whatever's going on with the saga of Rick Grimes. And the last we knew, Team Daryl and company fell into a cave trap set by Alpha from the Whispers.
Yep.
So I am just going to go on record and say this. If no major character dies within that cave, I'm just going to go off on the show next week. I'm serious. I hate when they do the major fake outs like what they did with Glenn when he fell off the dumpster and there was no chance in hell that he should have escaped. And he should have got killed off right there.
I will say I had some fun with that because there was a friend of mine who was convinced he wasn't dead. And I was coming up with every which way possible to say that he was dead.
He had to be dead.
And they just wouldn't accept it.
Yeah, so obviously when somehow Superman survived, only to get punked out by Negan as he did. Well, I shouldn't say punked out. Cause
you knew that was coming.
Yeah, but we all knew that was coming with Negan. So I mean,
I remember you and I having conversations when they had said Negan was coming. I'm like, you and I both going, are they going to do the scene? I don't know if they can.
Yeah.
They did it.
And they did the scene, which was a turning point for a lot of Walking Dead fans. Because comic book fans, we all knew what was coming with that.
Yeah.
Everybody that just jumped on it because TV's hottest show at the time got a little freaked out.
Some people were freaking out. Others were going, oh, that was badass. And then there was that third group going, ooh, I think that was verbatim from the comics.
Yeah, exactly. So whatever they do here, because it's the Whisper War, they need to do something big.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, because if you don't kill off a major character that's in that cave, this is all for nothing. Like, you can only do so much where Daryl escapes when 100 zombies are around him.
Well, isn't Denai Guerrero supposed to be leaving the show?
She is.
What if this is where she goes out?
I'd be okay with that. I mean, it's already been announced she's leaving the show.
I'm thinking like a Gandalf Lord of the Rings type situation where save yourselves and runs out.
Yeah, I'd be okay with it. Like, I haven't seen the trailer for the new season yet.
Right.
So I've been trying to avoid it because I want to go in the season fresh because obviously with the book being canceled, there is a ending that they can do. Will they do that one for the show when they decide to end it is anybody's guess. I'm not saying that's going to happen because they are committed for next season.
Right.
After that, we don't know anything. The only thing that we can say for certain, Fear the Walking Dead is coming back, and that Worlds Collide or
whatever it's called,
the new show with the kids.
Yeah.
So we're still going to have Walking Dead on AMC. So take it for what it is. I'm more excited for seeing a Better Call Saul come back for the final season.
Yeah.
But that's just me. But I'm still going to give it a shot. I've already gotten this far. I got to go finish it out. But I'm just saying, if they decide to do it safe and like botch up a major death, which they should do on the show, because they did that when Alpha had the spike scene and killed off characters nobody cared about. I'm sorry, nobody did. They got to step the game up. Otherwise, it's just going to be all like, wash, rinse, repeat again. And I don't want to see that. I got better stuff to do. Sunday night, I'm going to be watching Supergirl because, hey, it's the 100th episode. I forgot to mention that during the segment. So, that being said, AMC has got to step that game up. They got to definitely, move the needle and get people watching Walking Dead again. Because if it fails flat,
I wouldn't be surprised. Like I've said before on the show, and I will say it again, would not be surprised if next season's the last one. Just given how tumultuous the reception has been the last couple of years.
Yeah, it has to be. In my opinion, it's got to go. So let's end talking some more Batman, because we open up the segment because it's Happy Birthday Bruce Wayne Day here on the ODPH.
What do you get for the man who can literally buy anything? Parents?
Oh, wow. Wow, Pad. Wow. He went there.
Yeah.
Man, that was cold. Well, it looks like we might have to get him something for Father's Day because it has been tweeted out by Tom King that there is an image of Batman with a pregnant Catwoman.
Somebody call Maury Povich.
On top of a rooftop. And there has been no clarification of where this is going to be happening. This is only just an image that was tweeted out. The artwork is by Mikel Janin, who has been a long time. If you've gone through Tom King's run on Batman, Janin's drawn a lot of Batman issues with him. So we don't know where this is going to be tagged into.
Okay.
So that being said, it could go a lot of different ways. Is it going to be tied into the Batman Catwoman series that's eventually going to come out? I know it's been delayed a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, because Clay Mann was supposed to be the artist involved with it.
Right.
There's another Catwoman special edition that's coming out that they do for their characters when they hit like the 80th year.
Yeah.
So I'm escaping like the official title of it, but could it be a part of that? Sure. We don't know. The only thing for certain is the image is out there. Fandom is running a little crazy with it. What's going to happen?
Which is to be expected.
It's to be expected, but it could go a lot of different ways. I mean, it could just be like a futuristic story. Obviously, if you know the comics real well, this could introduce Helena Wayne in from Earth 2 and you go the multi-universe. So there's a lot of different ways this can go. So that being said, stay tuned for some more information. I don't really have a lot on that. Just I know that I've been getting hit up on social media at OD Parlay Hour. Thoughts on this, and that's my official take. Wait and see. This could be a throwaway thing, like an imaginary sequence.
Yeah, that seems more likely.
This could be written in the continuum. I don't know, because obviously, with the Batman Catwoman series coming out, who knows what's going to happen there? The only thing I know is Clay Mann's drawn it, and Tom King's writing it.
And all I know is the Phantasm's going to be in it, and you have me hooked.
Exactly. So stay tuned for more information on that. Also, talking some Batman news. It has been announced that Batman the Animated Series is returning in comic book form.
Yes.
So stay tuned for some more information
from the show producers.
Yes.
This isn't like, Joe Schmo at DC Comics picking it up because, they were a real huge Batman the Animated Series fan back in the day. No, this is coming from the show's producers.
Yes.
So I would take this as a continuation, official canon to the animated series.
Who knows? Maybe they'll bring it back.
Listen, man, fingers crossed on that one.
I was just waiting to see Pat go, like, if it doesn't happen, I'm going to be quitting the show.
If it doesn't come back, if the series doesn't come back, I'm okay with it. It's still a great series. Nothing will ever change that. But if it comes back, I will be over the moon.
Oh, absolutely. So before I do the comic book rundown, since obviously it is Happy Birthday, Bruce Wayne, Pat, I'm going to throw you on the spot.
Okay.
Favorite Batman moment or Batman comic story?
Favorite Batman moment probably has to be in Dark Knight Rises, where he finally comes back and makes his appearance in the suit. Where you've got Bane's henchmen or whoever it is running from the stock exchange, and they've got the one guy on the back of the motorcycle, and they're going through, and you got the entire police force chasing him, and then the lights start flickering out, and you got the younger officer going, what's going on? And then the Bat Pod goes streaking by, and the one cop who's been in like the previous two movies goes, "Oh boy, you're in for a show tonight." And just you get the Hans Zimmer Batman theme playing while the entire Gotham police force is chasing him down. One of the best scenes I've seen in a movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's really tough to break down. The movies have all been classic for one way or another. Batman 89 is self-explanatory. Really was the first comic book movie since the Christopher Reeve Superman to really hit fans and
be different.
And be different and be something fresh at the movies. Obviously, the Nolan trilogy we've talked about on the show numerous times.
We're not going to talk about the Bat credit card?
No, we're just going to ignore that because, like I say, it's been good at times and it's been downright awful.
Yeah, I will say this. I think at this point, anyone who worked on any of those Joel Schumacher films will admit they were bad.
Yeah, I understand the vision they were trying to go with, but
yeah.
We didn't need to see Batman 66 brought onto a major motion picture and Adam West not be tagged in it. I'm sorry. It's just, I mean, they were what they were, but the Nolan trilogy definitely brought it a realistic feel to it. I always loved those movies. I mean, The Dark Knight, and it's one of my favorite movies of all time. And just to see that quintessential Batman versus Joker story brought to life, truly phenomenal. Truly phenomenal. And comic-wise, there's been so much Batman over the years that you really got to kind of pick and choose. Long Halloween is one of my favorite stories, and if you've never read it and you really love a good detective story and a mystery story, it's up there. Dark Knight Returns, I know we mentioned a lot, and it is an iconic story. I'm not super great about the ending, but I do
Sure.
love the book.
Sure.
There's one minor faux pas in that book, and I just kind of go, okay, I'm just going to go with it because I'm already hooked on the story.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite comics is a little storyline called Contagion.
Okay.
And without going complete spoiler about what it's about, it's Batman fighting a deadly virus that's been unleashed in Gotham. So it's him versus something he can't punch, he can't kick. He has to stop a virus that's infecting and killing thousands in Gotham. It's truly well done. When you find out everything behind it, it really hits you. The sequels to it, albeit, are not good.
Right.
They're okay. They don't hit you the same way this storyline did. It's one of my favorite ones, and obviously I preach about them on the show all the time. Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo's run on Batman is like my Batman. I love Tom King's run. I will admit, I wound up really getting entrenched with it because Tom King put the man back in the Bat. Snyder and Capullo put the fear into the Bat, and the visuals match the story. Court of Owls, phenomenal. Death in the Family, amazing. Even 0 Year, which I will admit is probably my least favorite Snyder Capullo run, is still good. And just where they went, albeit though the Gordon in the Iron Man suit, not my favorite thing. I understand why after Endgame, because Endgame was amazing in its own right, and how they wrapped it up. Last Night on Earth is great. I mean, I could just preach about them all the time. But.
Let's say honorable mention because I almost forgot about it. A great animated film they did was featuring Batman was Batman and Superman: Public Enemies.
Yes,
where essentially little plot summary: Superman gets framed for attempting to assassinate President Lex Luthor, and the only person who believes him and is not hunting him down because Superman becomes public enemy title. Number one is Batman. So the two of them team up to take on and simultaneously defeat every villain and superhero in the entire DC universe. Just some names that are in the film. It does, of course, feature Kevin Conroy as Batman and Tim Daly as Superman, who Tim Daly voiced Superman in the animated series. Captain Adam's in it. Captain Marvel, Solomon Grundy, Metallo, Amanda Waller, Gorilla Grodd, Starfire, Killer Frost. I mean, I could go on.
It's so good.
Oh, it's so good. If you ever want to see two of the biggest heroes in comics take on everyone, this is your movie.
Yeah, absolutely. They do such an amazing job with it that the legacy of Batman still grows to this day. Like we say, whether it's the movies, whether it's the animated shows, whether it's the comics, which I have to give a plug, and Pat and I were talking about this off air. Batman issue number 89.
The 2020 version, not the way back in the day version.
So let us break this down because that's leading our pick at the comic shop this week.
Because good luck finding it.
Yeah. Why is that so important, Pat?
Well, it features the first cameo appearance of Joker's new partner in crime, Punchline. Admittedly, it's not much of an appearance. It's a cameo. It is very hard to find because it is flying off of comic book shelves everywhere. Here locally, it's Sound Go Round. A buddy of mine, Brian Rhodes of the show, tried to pick up a copy for me. Was there on his lunch break at work. He was there 2 hours after, roughly 2 hours after Sound Go Round had opened. They were sold out.
Yeah.
Copies of this issue are going on eBay for north of $125. I've seen even some going as high as $300 on eBay.
That's insane.
Yeah.
But it's awesome, though. I mean, Tinian's run has been incredible thus far. And he's definitely had a different take than Snyder and King. His voice is definitely getting fine-tuned for where he's going with this story and introducing a new character, and everybody is jumping on this character like it's the new Harley Quinn. It might turn out to be. We don't know. We've only seen a cameo.
You don't even see her full face.
You don't see her full face in this. We have seen pictures, though, because obviously she appears later in the stories, and there's promotional art for issues later. And, I mean, obviously there's the Year of the Villain, the Hell Arisen one-shot that's coming out, too, that she's going to be featured in. To see this book get this much traction, and, literally, it's a cameo.
Yeah.
Is amazing. And for an old-school comic fan like me, I love books like this. That's a cameo that makes you go to the shops early, go pick them up, get on the social media, talk the fandom with your fellow fans. I am waiting to talk to Brian from Cheers to Comics about this because we need to have this discussion. I got to talk to Ron from Three Fat Nerds about this too because he is arguably, him and Rich are like the big Batman fans over there.
Right.
So, but I definitely want to talk to Ron about this. To see the impact that's happening, this is just a cameo.
Yeah.
And considering everything else coming out this week.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking with Brian Rhodes about it, and when he was down at Soundground, he was talking to Justin from Soundground. Justin said it sold out immediately, and that Wolverine's new comic, his debut, is going to be outsold by Batman and 2 other DC titles individually.
That's crazy. I mean, it's amazing. It's good to see, too, that comic shops are thriving about this, but the Batman book is going absolutely crazy about this. So, I mean, that's the head book I'm saying for DC to pick up. It's a strong week, too. There's a new Legion that's out. Justice League's out. The Joker Killer Smile book is out, too. The Jeff Lemire story, which, I mean, that's absolutely crazy in its own right. And to see the Marvel side of things. So, would you figure, if you didn't know about that character and you say that book is going to be out by Marvel alone, the new Wolverine with Ben Piercy and Adam Kubert.
Yeah.
And that book, I have read spoilers. Holy shit. It's amazing. I'm blown away at the first issue thus far.
Yeah, I mean, getting back to the Batman 89 because I was digging on eBay. Found one copy on eBay that is the variant issue with what looks like to be a black and white photo of Batman fighting Deathstroke. Is currently going for $274.99. And then the standard cover, nothing special about it, is currently, there's an issue on there currently going for $249.99. On eBay.
That's insane. Like I say, for that book to be beating the Wolverine book coming out the gate is crazy. It's amazing, but it's, like I said, my pick going into this week was going to be Wolverine. Like I said, the Punchline thing was going to be interesting because we don't know, but everybody is jumping on. It's like it's new Harley Quinn, so we'll have to wait and see. I mean, the Marvel side is a strong book week, too.
Yeah.
With Wolverine number 1 coming out. It's big X-Men week, too, because Marauders is coming out. New Mutants is coming out. New Daredevil's coming out. I mean, there is Al Ewing's Guardians of the Galaxy is coming out. But Batman 89, if you can get down to the comic shop.
If you can find it anywhere, congratulations.
Yeah, because I know it's obviously going to go second and third printing.
It's going to go like 14 printings.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's going to go crazy. So this character is going to be featured heavily, and I'm not saying we're going to see him or see her in the Matt Reeves movie.
No.
But I'm not doubting we won't see possibly something on an HBO Max down the road. Maybe a DC universe.
I'd say maybe 5-10 years from now. She's just introduced. We don't know anything about her. We don't know anything.
But obviously, I'm going to say this, Pat. If this book keeps projecting as it is right now, don't doubt within 3 years. I'm even going to go on that limb. Don't doubt within 3. So we'll have to wait and see. Strong week of comics, though, so get down to your local comic shop. Shout out to Justin at Sound Go Round 2 locally. And obviously take a listen to Brian at Cheers of Comics because he's going to have a lot to say about this. We are going to have a little conversation, too, on Twitter about this. I can't wait to have that discussion. That being said, the music you heard on this episode is that of Shout at the Robots, who have a very, very big gig going on this Saturday night, February 22nd at Galaxy Brewing Company. A very special episode is coming back into town. Shout out to them and Water Bears. So all that information is going to be at Shout at the Robots social media. How do you get there, you ask? One simple place you got to go swing by, and that's OchoDuroParlayHour.com/music. You can find out all about what's going on in the land of Shout at the Robots. You can find out what's going on with Floodlands, who are going to be coming back on the show very, very soon. Talk to Jimmy, and I talked to Tom. Pat, I would say by April, they are going to be back in because there is a huge show they have going on. And before they go on a little tour, actually, they're going upstate New York. So very happy for those guys. So to find out what's going on with them, to find out what's going on with Second Suitor and the tour they have going on with Tom Julu. They're down in Florida right now. So if you are listening to us in Florida, definitely head over to our webpage. Check out where Second Suitor and Tom Julu are playing. Swing by. Tell them that you heard them on the ODPH. They'll definitely be appreciative. They'll give you a high five. You can hear One Winged Angel, the ballad that's going to be taken over the summer by Second Suitor. You can also check out Walking Distance. You can check out Honker. All the great music you hear. Fair City Fire. All one place, and that's OchoDuroParlayHour.com/music. You can also check over Parlay Points, the complimentary blog section to the ODPH. You can check out the ODPH directory, which has links to Excite Wrestling, which if you were listening to the wrestling show on 3FN, you know about what's coming March 7th and the big autograph session going on. Demolition from the 1980s, early 1990s is going to be swinging by to do some autographs. So if you're a WWE fan, you definitely know who they are. So excitewrestling.com for more information on that. You can obviously check out Off the Cuff Gaming. Shout out to Tom, who was inspired by our Happy Birthday Bruce Wayne today to do Lego DC Supervillains on the Off the Cuff Gaming channel.
Ooh, I hear that's a good game.
Yeah, you'll have to definitely check the episode out. He was doing some live streaming. Definitely go follow him on YouTube. So if you're subscribing, definitely you should be subscribing to Tom. Always does awesome content. Also on the ODPH directory, you can give a shout out to 3 Fat Nerds, Rich, Ron, and hashtag challenge accepted, hashtag Big Natty Cool Diesel, and Horizon 607 is on there, and 8122productions.com, which you can find out all about their Patreon. Pad, if I told you Derek is going the full month of March with episodes of Love is Scary, what's your reaction?
Good Lord.
Yes. He is going the entire month of March with brand new episodes of Love is Scary. I can't talk about it. I'm not behind a paywall. He is. Rich just literally walks in the studio, hits record, and leaves. So Derek is in the studio with an open microphone. Ron and Rich are outside. They're nowhere near this. They're letting the artists go to work. What is he talking about? $1 a month gets you in the door. $3 a month gets you a comfy chair. So go pull up a seat at the table and hear all what 8122 Productions is doing. And definitely check it out and subscribe. Shout out to Pod Nation. Shout out to NXTWAVE. Shout out to hashtag 607 Podcast. You can find out the links to the Podchaser lists on OchoDoroParlayHour.com. Everything you need that is the ODPH is there. Because that's all I got for this week. So for the one and only Padawan J.
Thank you, and watch the Clone Wars.
I'm your host, Ken M. Thank you, as always, for listening to the ODPH podcast, better known as the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. See you next time.